Since the beginning of time, the random nature of existence has caused mankind to ask the eternal question, why me? Poverty, disease, misfortune, it's all the same, engulfed by the darkness, helpless, without hope, you face the long night alone. You know bad things happen, people suffer, people die, but why me? Why now? Why not somebody else? So what do? Maybe we avoid risky behavior. Maybe we take care of ourselves, eat right, get enough sleep, the usual stuff. Regardless of all our effort and hope, tragedy may still arrive in our lives. It's part of the human condition. In a real sense, there is nothing we can do about it. The pain and suffering that a child experiences growing up in an abusive family, especially when one or both of the parents are narcissists, will have a profound effect on the child's life beyond that which we can imagine. Of all the families you could have been born into, you find yourself in this one. Maybe there was constant, never-ending expressions of anger. Maybe you lived in a constant fear. Maybe there was physical abuse or psychological abuse or both. Did you live with a knot in your stomach, in a reactive state, hypervigilant, afraid of what might happen next? But there was nothing you could do about it. A healthy response might be, why me? But children might be more apt to imagine that they have somehow brought it on themselves, that they somehow deserve it. They might try harder and harder to please their oppressors, to no avail. They might grow up lacking a sense of self-worth. They might imagine that love exists, but it's not something that they have ever experienced. They might carry within them a dark, damaged view of who they are and what they can expect from future relationships. So the children, they grow up and hopefully at some point escape and imagine that they are free. They might learn over time how wrong it was and how evil those who abuse children are, and again imagine that they are free. As years go by, they might meet someone who is kind and attentive. They listen. They seem to care. You share your history. You confide in them all that you are and all that you hope to them. But at some point, after you and they have become completely enmeshed, essentially joined together as one, things might begin to change. Petty verbal abuse might start, not every day, but enough to cause you to try harder. Expressions of kindness might follow, but when they enter the room, you're never really sure of what might happen. So you get that old feeling in the pit of your gut. You know the one. The feeling you experienced years ago, the one that never healed. As it gets worse over time and we become as an abused servant, we rationalize their behavior. We accept their faults. We just try to get along, to keep the peace. Then one day they just leave without warning. No discussion, no explanation. You are devastated. Maybe you stop eating, stop sleeping, or just collapse. Maybe it was a year ago, maybe last week. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. Maybe one day you begin your study of narcissism. Do you remember that day? Do you recall how doors began to open in your mind, and in retrospect, the reality of who you let into your life began to coalesce into a clear picture of who they were and why they treated you as they did? You might feel a chill in your bones as you come to grips with the thought that the narcissist that raised you, conditioned you on a subconscious level, to expect things to be a certain way, and when it turned out that way, it just felt right. You were programmed to accept not being good enough. You were trained to feel guilt. You were desensitized to your own feelings of worth and autonomy. You were primed, in a sense, made ready in the off chance that you ran into a narcissist, and because of your past became an easy target. Of all the things that could happen in one's life, it happened to you again. Can you accept that when you were a child, it wasn't your fault? Can you also accept that when you fell victim to the narcissist as an adult, it wasn't your fault? How could you have known? How could you have realized? Forgive yourself. Learn to love yourself. If someone you cared about told you a story that matched your own, would you feel sympathetic? Would you be understanding? Would you feel less alone? Would you feel a connection? Would you feel a sense of validation? Would you begin to feel a little better? This is a start.